future wife. Isn't it crazy that somewhere in this world, you're living your life normally, while a ring with your name written on my heart has already been waiting for you this whole time? I know it sounds crazy, but somewhere between lonely nights, silent prayers, and dreams I never told anyone about, I started believing in you, a woman I hadn't even met yet. A soul my heart was already saving a place for, and one day, I walked into a small jewelry store, looked at a ring behind the glass, and without hesitation, I bought it. Not because I was in love already, but because I believed love like ours had to exist somewhere in this world. People laughed when they heard that story. They said, "How can you buy a ring for someone you've never met?" But love has never been logical. Real love is faith. It's choosing someone in your heart before life finally introduces you to them. So, future wife, wherever you are right now, maybe we're strangers today. Maybe you're smiling at another conversation, walking through another city, living a life that hasn't crossed mine yet. But somehow, my soul already whispers your name. Future wife AB. Know this might sound strange to the world, maybe even crazy. But one day, long before I knew your name, before I heard your laugh, before I knew the color of your eyes or the way your voice would calm every storm inside me, I walked into a jewelry store and bought a ring for you. Not for someone I was dating, not for someone I had already fallen in love with, just for you, for the woman my soul somehow already believed existed somewhere in this world. And I remember standing there, staring at that ring, under the soft lights of the glass counter. People around me were buying gifts for anniversaries, birthdays, weddings already planned. But me, I was standing there alone, holding a future no one else could see yet. The man behind the counter smiled at me and asked, "Who's the lucky girl?" And I didn't know how to answer him, because how do you explain a love that hasn't arrived yet, but already feels real? How do you explain that your heart has been making space for someone your eyes have never met? So, I just smiled quietly and said, "She's coming." I think people underestimate how lonely life can become when your heart is built for deep love in a world that keeps teaching people to love temporarily. I've seen people hold hands without connection. I've seen relationships built on convenience instead of loyalty. I've watched people say, "I love you," while secretly planning their escape routes. And maybe that's why I protected my heart for so long. Not because I didn't want love, but because I wanted something real enough to survive silence, distance, pain, misunderstandings, hard days, and the parts of life nobody posts online. I wanted the kind of love where two people choose each other, even after seeing the broken pieces, the kind where you don't have to pretend to be perfect to be worthy of staying. So while the world rushed into temporary feelings, I waited for something eternal. I waited for you. There were nights I questioned myself, nights where I wondered if maybe I was loving an idea instead of a person. But then something inside me would whisper, "No, she's real." Maybe right now, as I speak these words, you're somewhere looking out of a car window on your way home after a long day. Maybe you're lying in bed wondering why love has disappointed you so many times. Maybe you've been strong for too long. Maybe people only loved the parts of you that were easy to handle and disappeared when they finally saw your scars. And if that's true, I need you to know something. You were never hard to love. You were just surrounded by people who didn't understand the depth of your heart. Because the right person doesn't get scared when you become emotional. The right person doesn't disappear when life becomes inconvenient. The right person stays, and I think that's what I was really buying that day, when I bought the ring. Not jewelry, not gold or diamonds. I was buying belief that somewhere out there was a woman who would love with honesty. A woman who wouldn't run the second things became difficult. A woman who would look at my flaws and still choose me gently. You know? No? People think men don't dream about love deeply. They think we don't imagine the future in quiet moments, but they're wrong. I've imagined you more times than I can count, not in fantasy movie moments, not in perfect fairy tale scenes. I imagined the real things. I imagined sitting beside you after a difficult day and saying nothing at all because silence feels peaceful when it's with the right person. I imagined reaching for your hand during long drives, cooking late at night together while music plays softly in the background. Watching you laugh at something stupid until you can't breathe. I imagined the mornings when your hair is messy and you're still half asleep And somehow, you look even more beautiful than any version of yourself the world gets to see. I imagine protecting your heart the way I wish someone had protected mine once, because people talk a lot about finding someone attractive. But very few people talk about finding someone safe. I want to be your safe place. I want to be the person you call when the world becomes too heavy, the person who listens carefully when your voice starts shaking, the person who notices when you're pretending to be okay. I don't want a perfect relationship. I want a truthful one. I want the kind of love where we can sit together in complete honesty, no masks, no games, no pretending to be emotionally unavailable because the internet made it look cool. I'm tired of people acting like caring deeply is embarrassing. Loving someone deeply is one of the bravest things a human being can do, because love gives another person the power to hurt you. And trusting them anyway, it's courage, and maybe that's why I bought the ring before I met you, because I was tired of fearing love, tired of pretending I didn't dream about forever, tired of acting like commitment was something to joke about, instead of honor. I wanted to become the kind of man who was already ready for you before you arrived, not perfect, but ready to communicate, ready to stay loyal, ready to protect your peace instead of disturbing it, ready to love you gently on the days you feel hardest to love. I think that's the problem with modern love sometimes. People prepare for weddings, but not for partnership. They prepare photos, captions, expensive decorations, but they don't prepare emotionally. They never learn how to apologize properly, how to stay calm during disagreements, how to listen without becoming undefensive, how to choose love when life stops feeling exciting for a moment. But I want all of it with you. Not just the beautiful days. Not just the easy chapters. I want the exhausted nights, the healing conversations, the difficult seasons where we hold on to each other tighter, instead of walking away, because real love isn't proven during perfect moments. It's proven when life becomes uncomfortable, and maybe you've already been through enough pain to doubt love completely. Maybe somebody once made promises they never intended to keep. Maybe somebody taught you to question your worth every time they became distant. Maybe you learned how to sleep with tears quietly, because you didn't want anyone hearing your heartbreak. I wish I could go back in time and sit beside that version of you. I wish I could tell her, one day, somebody is going to love you without making you beg for consistency. Because love shouldn't feel like confusion all the time. It shouldn't feel like anxiety mixed with hope. The right love feels calm, not boring. Calm, there's a difference. Calm is when your heart finally stops preparing for abandonment. Calm is when you no longer have to decode mixed signals. Calm is when someone's actions match their words. And future wife, I promise you, I want to become that calm for you. I know I'm not flawless. I know I'll have bad days, days where I become quiet, days where life overwhelms me. But even on those days, I will never intentionally make you feel unloved. Because I know what it feels like to question whether someone still cares about you. I know the pain of loving harder while the other person slowly pulls away, and I never want you carrying that weight beside me. I want you to feel chosen every day, not because relationships are always easy, but because effort should never disappear once love becomes familiar. I still want to flirt with you years later, still hold your face gently during conversations, still kiss your forehead when you're stressed, still look at you sometimes and think, I can't believe I found her. That's the kind of love I dream about, the kind where romance doesn't disappear after commitment, where emotional intimacy becomes deeper with time, instead of weaker. And honestly, maybe buying the ring before meeting you was my way of telling the universe I was serious about love, because people manifest success all the time. Money, cars, careers. But I was praying for something softer. I was praying for home, not a house, not an address. A person, you. A woman whose presence makes ordinary moments feel meaningful. A woman whose voice feels familiar to my soul. A woman I can trust completely. This, when the rest of the world feels uncertain. I wonder sometimes what our first conversation will feel like. Will I recognize you immediately? Will my heart become quiet the moment you smile? Will there be a strange feeling of familiarity between us, like two souls finally returning to each other after being separated too long? Maybe. Or maybe it'll happen slowly, maybe love will grow quietly between us through late-night conversations and vulnerable honesty. Maybe one random day I'll look at you and realize, there you are. The woman the ring was waiting for. And honestly, I don't even care how long it takes anymore. Because rushing love usually destroys it. I'd rather wait years for something real than spend months trapped inside something fake. I'd rather build one honest relationship than collect temporary connections that leave my heart emptier every time. You deserve depth, not confusion. You deserve loyalty, not inconsistency. You deserve a man who doesn't disappear emotionally once he gets comfortable. And I'm trying, every day, to become that man for you before we even meet. That's another reason I bought the ring early. Not because I was desperate, but because I was intentional. There's power in preparing your heart for the kind of love you pray for. Whoa, so while others were wasting time hurting people casually, I was learning how to communicate better. Learning patience, learning emotional maturity, learning how to love someone in ways that feel safe instead of painful. Because I know love alone isn't enough. You can love someone deeply and still hurt them if you never heal yourself properly. And I never want my unhealed pain becoming your burden. I want us to heal together. Not destroy each other while calling it romance. Future wife baby, hope when we finally meet, you feel peace around me immediately. Not pressure, not performance. Peace. I hope you never feel like you have to compete for my attention. I hope you never question whether you matter to me. I hope you never cry yourself to sleep, wondering why I became distant overnight, because if I love you, you'll know it. Not only through words, through consistency, through the way I listen carefully when you speak. Through the way I protect your name when you're not around. Through the way I stay during difficult conversations instead of escaping them. Love should feel visible, not hidden behind confusion and excuses. And if someday our children ask me when I first knew I believed in you, I'll smile and tell them the truth. I bought the ring before I even met her. And maybe they'll laugh. Maybe they'll think it sounds impossible, but then I'll look at you sitting beside me and realize some impossible things are actually destiny. Wearing ordinary clothes, I think deep down, I've always known you existed. Not perfectly, not clearly, but in the same way people feel sunlight before opening the curtains, somewhere inside me, your presence already existed long before your arrival. And, until the day we finally cross paths, I'll keep becoming softer. Wiser. Kinder. More patient. I'll keep protecting the part of my heart that still believes in forever, despite everything this world has done to make people cynical about love. Because I refuse to become cold just because life has been painful. Sometimes, I refuse to treat love casually just because other people gave up on commitment, and maybe that's rare. Now. Maybe. Loyalty feels old-fashioned to some people, but I still believe there's beauty in devotion. Beauty in choosing one person fully, beauty in staying faithful even when nobody's watching. I still believe love should feel sacred. That's why the ring mattered to me. It wasn't just jewelry sitting inside a box. It became a promise. A quiet promise between me and the future, a promise that when you finally arrive, you won't meet a man still running from intimacy. You'll meet a man who already spent years preparing his heart to protect yours carefully. And maybe one day, when I finally slide that ring onto your finger, I'll remember this exact moment, the loneliness, the hope, the faith it took to believe in someone I couldn't even see yet. And I'll probably smile to myself thinking, she was worth waiting for. Some people wait until they fall in love before they start believing in forever. But me? I think I started believing in forever long before love ever arrived in my life. Maybe. That's why I've always felt different from people around me. While everyone else was chasing temporary excitement, I was quietly dreaming about permanence. Not perfection, not fantasy. Just permanence. A person who stays, a connection that survives hard days. A love that doesn't disappear the moment life becomes inconvenient. You know, the world has made commitment look frightening these days. People talk about loyalty like it's rare. People leave relationships the second they stop feeling entertained. And somehow, pretending not to care became cooler than loving deeply. But I could never teach my heart to love halfway, even after disappointment, even after betrayal, even after watching people make promises they had no intention of keeping. Some part of me still believed there had to be a woman out there who loved the same way I did, softly. Honestly, completely, and I think that belief is what kept me going during lonely nights. Because loneliness changes people. Sometimes it makes them colder. Sometimes it convinces them to stop believing in meaningful connection altogether. But for me, loneliness did something different. It made me appreciate the idea of real love even more. I started noticing little things. Couples growing old together while walking slowly through grocery stores. A husband fixing his wife's scarf without even thinking about it. A woman looking at the man beside her like she still felt lucky after all those years. Those moments meant something to me. Because real love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's hidden inside ordinary gestures, inside remembering how someone takes their coffee, inside asking if they got home safely, inside sitting beside them quietly after a difficult day. That's the kind of forever I wanted, not the version people post online, not staged romance. Real intimacy. The kind where two people slowly become home for each other. And maybe that sounds old-fashioned now. Maybe people think dreaming about forever makes someone unrealistic. But I don't think there's anything foolish about wanting something genuine in a world full of temporary things. So while others were afraid of commitment, I was preparing for it emotionally. I was learning communication. Learning how to become the kind of man who could love someone without making them feel emotionally unsafe. Because forever isn't built from attraction alone. Attraction can introduce two people, but character is what keeps them together when life becomes difficult. And life always becomes difficult eventually. There will be stressful seasons, moments of misunderstanding, days when exhaustion replaces romance for a little while. That's why I never wanted a shallow connection. I wanted a woman I could speak to honestly, a woman who wouldn't run away during uncomfortable conversations, a woman who understands that real love is not about avoiding storms. It's about holding on to each other, while walking through them together. Future wife. Before I ever knew your name, I was already making space for you in my heart, not in a desperate way. Not because I needed someone to complete me. But because deep inside, I knew life becomes more meaningful when love is real. And, honestly, I wonder what your journey has been like before reaching me. Maybe you've spent years pretending to be strong, because nobody ever stayed long enough to see your softer side safely. Maybe somebody taught you to doubt your worth, because they couldn't recognize your value properly. Maybe you've cried quietly in rooms full of people, because loneliness feels heavier when nobody understands your heart. If that's true, I hope you survive those moments long enough to find me someday, because I promise you, there's still someone in this world who believes in lasting love. Someone who still thinks loyalty matters. Someone who still wants emotional intimacy instead of surface-level connection. Someone who still dreams about waking up beside the same person decades later and feeling grateful they stayed. That's me. And maybe people would laugh if they knew how serious I am about love. Maybe they'd call me unrealistic, but I think modern dating made people so afraid of heartbreak that they stopped allowing themselves to dream deeply anymore. They stopped believing in soul-level connection, stopped believing in devotion, stopped believing that one person could truly choose another person completely. I never stopped believing even when life gave me reasons to become emotionally guarded. I never stopped hoping for you, because hope is powerful. Hope keeps the heart alive. And every time I imagined you somewhere out there, living your life without knowing I existed yet, something inside me became calmer. It reminded me that love isn't always immediate. Sometimes it's preparing two people separately before finally bringing them together at the right moment. Maybe that's why timing matters so much. If we met too early, maybe we wouldn't recognize the value of what we had. Maybe we needed heartbreak first. Maybe we needed loneliness. Maybe we needed to learn difficult lessons about ourselves, for becoming ready for something lasting. And honestly, I don't hate my past anymore, because maybe every painful moment was shaping me into the man you'll someday need beside you. Pain changes people, but love, real love, heals people too. That's the kind of relationship I want with you. Not one where we constantly wound each other while calling it passion. Not one built on emotional games and insecurity. I want healing. I want softness after difficult days. I want honesty without fear. I want us to become each other's peace in a noisy world. I think one of the most beautiful feelings in life is knowing somebody chooses you intentionally every single day, not out of convenience. Not because they're afraid to be alone, but because their soul feels at home with yours. That's what forever means to me. It means waking up years later and still protecting each other gently, still flirting, still listening carefully, still reaching for each other during difficult moments instead of pulling away. And maybe someday, we'll sit together late at night talking about our lives before we met. Maybe you'll tell me about all the moments you almost gave up on love, and maybe I'll smile quietly and tell you the truth. I never stopped believing in you. Even before your face became familiar to me. I believed in your existence. I believed there had to be someone out there whose heart matched mine in all the ways that truly matter, someone capable of loyalty, compassion, forgiveness, gentleness. Someone who understands that relationships are not competitions, they're partnerships. And future wife. When I finally meet you, I don't want our love to feel rushed or forced. I want it to unfold naturally, slowly, safely. I want us to learn each other carefully, your fears, your dreams, the things that make you smile unexpectedly, the wounds you rarely speak about, because loving someone deeply means paying attention to the parts of them the rest of the world overlooks. And I promise, I want to notice everything about you. The little changes in your voice when you're upset. The way your eyes look when you're trying not to cry, the things you pretend don't matter but secretly carry heavily inside your heart. I don't want surface-level love with you. I want connection so honest that silence between us still feels meaningful. I want to become the person you never have to perform around. The person you can completely exhale beside, because life already asks people to pretend too much, pretend to be stronger, pretend not to care. Pretend they're okay when they're breaking inside. I never want our love to feel like another performance. I want truth, and maybe that's why forever mattered to me. Before love ever arrived, because deep down I wasn't searching for temporary happiness. I was searching for something sacred. A connection that survives changing seasons, a relationship built on trust instead of fear. A love that grows deeper with time instead of disappearing once reality begins. That kind of love still exists. I know it does. Maybe it's rare now. Maybe people have become too distracted, too wounded, too emotionally unavailable to recognize it immediately, but rare doesn't mean impossible, and one day, somewhere between ordinary moments and unexpected conversations, our paths will cross, and maybe neither of us will realize immediately how important that moment truly is. Maybe it'll begin quietly, with comfort, with laughter, with conversations that somehow feel familiar too quickly. And slowly, without forcing anything, we'll become each other's home. That's when I'll realize my belief in forever was never foolish after all. It was preparation. Preparation for you.